This is a short video on things to look for when you're buying a guitar, especially if you're dealing like with lower budget. You're gonna have to watch for this stuff to kind of avoid a lot of problems that could occur. For this example, I'm gonna use a really cheap guitar. I bought this one for like I think $80. It was what was the brand? It was Spectre. Yeah, I have Spectre guitars. It even had a logo here that I could just scrape off with my thumbnail, which is kind of cool because it looks a little better not saying some brand nobody knows. I bought it just kind of for fun to have I also wanted to have another guitar again that has single coil pickups just for that sound. But knowing it was going to be cheap or probably not even playable, I figured, okay, whatever. It would be fun to work on basically and try to fix things, which is much better to do with a cheap guitar than trying to do it on an expensive guitar and ruin it. Because a lot of times when you're trying modifications on a guitar, it's going to be a trial and error process, and you can damage guitars, which does happen. But if you do it right, and you do it right a couple times, and you get more comfortable with it, you could try it on a better guitar. So the first thing when I take a guitar to check out is I'm going to play all the strings and all the frets, basically, going through them all. Let's get my sound going. You hear that? Right around here, and here I know as well. I don't know how well you can hear it on the video, but it's got some fret buzz where the notes aren't ringing out properly. So that's one thing you want to try to avoid if you've got a choice of checking out the guitar first before you buy it. It can be pretty easy to fix. It can be a real hassle to fix, but if you can avoid it, you're better off. Another thing to check out is run your finger along the bottom of the neck across here, so you're feeling the edges of the fret wires, and look for any sharp fret wires. If you can avoid those, that's great too. If not, you can file them down. It's just something, if you can avoid, is better. You can do it on the top as well. Those are really annoying if they're sharp and sticking out and you're playing. They even cut your fingers at times. Another thing to look at, I've had this happen on good guitars, name brand guitars that were in the $300 to $400 range, is all of a sudden there's a dead fret buzz and this dead note that does not work. And what it actually was the fret wire was not seated in all the way. There was a little bit of a gap. It was very hard to see. I had to look really close to find it, and I noticed it. Actually really easy to fix, but if you have options of the same model, even if there's more than one at the store, just pick up the next one that doesn't have that problem. If you have that problem and you can see it, it's very easy to fix. You just take a wooden block. I took a drumstick, laid it across there, support the back of it on my leg, and just hammer it in lightly, tap it back in, and usually the problem's solved. That's one of those things too that's really, really easy to fix. But if you take it into a guitar shop, sometimes, it depends on how cool the guitar technician is or the store. I've seen this working at guitar stores before where they'll fix something that simple, and then the guy comes back, and all they know is that, hey, the guitar's playing great now, great. And they'll say like, yeah, we had to adjust the truss rod, we had to raise the action, and then we had to put new strings on, blah, 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 and then they're charging them like $75, when really all they did was like put a block of wood there and hammer it in. And I mean, if it's a cheap guitar, there's going to be issues, and there's ways to work around them. A lot of times by researching it online and looking it up, get more than one opinion as well, and see if there's little tricks you can do to help out to fix it. Put new strings on it. That can solve wonders. Sometimes I've had it where the intonation's off, and I put new strings on and the problem was solved. A lot of times when you get a new guitar, the strings could be a good brand, they could be a really bad brand, just really cheap strings. But a lot of the times the strings, you don't know how long they've been on there. Even if it's a brand new guitar, you don't know how long they've been sitting on the guitar in a showroom, in the open air, or in a warehouse where it can be damp or humid. And the strings are probably ready to replace. So I'll usually do that right away. Guitar strings are not that expensive, so it's worth it. If your guitar is not staying in tune very well, that could be quite a few issues, but one simple quick fix is take the strings off and see if your string nut here, the part that holds the strings in place at the top of the neck, make sure that's glued in and not moving around. If it's moving around or it's loose, that's going to go out of tune every time you bend the strings. Another thing that can happen are the grooves are not cut very good, which is very common, especially on cheap guitars. So if the grooves are not cut very good, there's going to be a little bit of slack in the strings every time you play on it that kind of builds up there and it gets caught up in the string, and the string keeps moving and does not stay in tune. They sell string lubricant. It's basically graphite. I've never even bought it before because you can just take a pencil, and with the pencil lead you just draw in the groove, fill it in with until it's black, and that's going to lubricate the string nut and usually solve the problem for that. Another thing is check out the tuners. Are they really like, is there a lot of play in them when you tune? Do they feel loose? If so, there's a screw usually at the top of the tuner head. I'll tighten that, not tight, but make it pretty snug. On the back, these are covered, but if they're not covered, there's a screw there. And make sure that's not overly tight, but make sure it's snug. Sometimes that is all it takes. Sometimes the whole machine head's going to wiggle. That happens too. I've had a few guitars that do that. There's some tricks you can do where you take the little screw out that holds it in place. Sometimes that hole that's drilled in there is stripped and the screw's not holding. You can even take like a, for these they're so small, I'll get like a flat toothpick and an X-Acto knife and cut that toothpick down the center and insert it in the hole and then put the screw in. Break it off so it's just into the surface. Put the screw in and it holds it in. If it's still moving, I'm going to make sure that it's always pushed forward this way from the string tension. If it's on the bottom, it'll go this way. So, you know, the string's pulling this way, so it's making it want to rotate that way. So I'll make sure it's pushed forward before I tune it. And that way it's not going to, as I'm playing, move over that way. That can be a real pain, but that's a way to kind of deal with it. Other things to check for are your volume pots on an electric guitar. I'm going to plug it into an amp, and I'm going to actually like just turn my volume up and down and listen for any sounds of crackling. If there are, the volume pot has dust in it, which you can replace, but again, if you can avoid it, that's better. Then I'm going to make sure the volume's up and do the same thing with my tone knobs, listen for any crackling. If not, that's fine. It happens, it's really common. It can be cleaned. A lot of times if it's really bad, you got to replace the pot, and it involves soldering, and it's not so expensive to replace them, but it's a hassle. Other things is make sure your pickups are all working. Real easy way to do that is just turn on the amp, not too loud. Take any kind of metal object, a screwdriver, anything, a knife, and you'll hear, I'm going to put on each pickup and tap on the metal pole or on the pickup itself, and you can hear it. So I hear the back one's working. I'm going to turn on for both of them, for the bridge and the middle. Check them. Check just the middle on its own. Check the middle and the neck, and the neck. Or if you have one pickup or two, whatever, check them all in all the positions to make sure your pickup selector is working correctly. Also check the ones that aren't supposed to be on to see if there's something messed up in the wiring. Sometimes people try to like rewire the things and they do it wrong. It's very easy to do wrong, or it's modified to work a different way, which can be cool, but you just want to make sure everything's working correctly. Other small signs to look for are just, check out the overall appearance of the guitar. This one, like I said, it's a cheap guitar. I didn't really bother to check it out. I just bought it expecting the worst and just something to play around on. And I looked at the back plate after I got out of the box, and you see, I don't know if you can see on the video, but the back plate isn't even straight. It probably doesn't, I'm sure it has something to do with the way it plays, but yeah, that's some things to check for. When I tuned it up after that, I made sure to kind of like hold the body and give a few pulls on make sure that neck is settled in really good before I bothered even tuning it. Like I said, it's a cheap guitar, but actually you can get a good sound out of a cheap guitar. I've used this on recordings just to get that single coil Strat sound on certain parts. If I try to use it for a whole rhythm part on a song, the E string usually goes out, so it's not very good for that. But for playing solos or lead harmonies and things like that, it works okay. It's really like, this is an $80 guitar, brand new. So get it the right sound that you want to use it for. Mess around with the pickup selector, your amp, and all that stuff. And you can really you can actually get a really cheap crap guitar to sound pretty decent and pull it off to use it in recordings. I kind of like doing that so that when people go, what guitar is that? I can tell them it's an $80 Spectre. 80% of your sound really is going to come out of your fingers. It's very true. Of course, it's nice to have good equipment, but it's not always an option for, it's almost never an option for me, but for a lot of people as well. And just keep that in mind. There's a lot of problems that will occur on even good guitars and name brand guitars. It's always good to learn how to deal with those too. So if you have a cheap guitar, even if you're going to buy a new one, try to learn how to fix some of that stuff on your own. Be careful with certain things. If you're trying to do a truss rod adjustment or anything where you're like drilling into the guitar or like woodworking, you got to know what you're doing first and be prepared to screw things up the first couple tries maybe. But if you learn how to do that stuff, you learn how to make your guitar play just like you like it. And also you're going to save a lot of money from going to get guitar work done and guitar repairs, and learn a lot more about what all these adjustments do. Basically, you learn to work with what you have, and it's very possible. I've done that all my life, basically. Worked with really bad equipment and worked around it and got it to work for me. And it's possible. You don't have to have $1,000 guitar to play guitar and make it sound good. And that's it for this one. I'll probably go into some more specific problems on guitars and how to fix them in the future. In the meantime, if anyone has any certain thing they want to bring out, just be specific in your question. Just don't say my guitar wasn't singing a tune. Just tell me what is going on, and I'll see if I can help you out on that.